Alright, so I'm back today with the video. Mainly talking about the preload of these coilovers that I bought. The Fox 2.5 coilovers. And a little bit of a backstory on getting to this position. So this 2015 Tacoma, I bought the thing new. It's got 58,000 miles on it. Decided to go ahead and do an upgrade to the suspension. I had the pucks. Let's see, here's one of the old coilovers. One of the ready lift spacers that is a big no-no. Everybody says not to do. Long story short, I didn't have too many problems with them. It did ride a little bit rougher, but it did the job that I needed it to do at the time that I bought it, which was the main reason here, adding that winch and stuff. It dropped the front of this pickup down quite a bit. But when I got into buying this whole system, it's an Ackertune off-road system that they make or put together, and then they do all the custom tuning on it, is their Fox 4A kit. I have the 2.5s in the back as well. Those have been on for a couple weeks because I received those first. And with knowing that I had the spacer lifts in the front, I went ahead and threw the backs in. It sat a little tall in the back. I think it's going to sit tall in the back even with these coilovers on there. But as I was on the phone with Ackertune, I asked them for a spanner wrench to be able to do the adjustments here on these adjusting rings. There's holes here for a spanner wrench, and he told me that they had them, they could sell them to me. I think they're like 40 bucks, but he didn't recommend me having one because these springs, you know, we can't see the numbers, at least on this side. These springs are heavy duty springs. At the time of this conversation, these springs were supposed to be a 600-pound spring. We ended up going to a 650-pound spring, which might be a little bit big from what I'm seeing here in my adjustments. I've already started adjusting this, but hopefully one more turn on this and I'll be right where I need to be. And if I add weight later, I could crank those down a little bit. But with these heavy-duty springs on here, you can mess these holes up. You can mess the surfaces up between the ring and the spring if you don't destroy the wrench trying to turn them, because these springs are heavy duty. So their suggestions for doing this adjustment is to take the coilovers out and take them to a shop and have them put into a wall mounted press. I planned on doing this whole kit myself. The area that I live in, I did some research. I can't find anybody that does this. There's one shop, maybe two shops maybe, but I don't see anybody that really specializes in this exact stuff here. After finding out what I found out about the coilovers, I did start calling shops. I called Les Schwab, big box store. They said they didn't even want to touch them. They don't touch coilovers that are adjustable. They only do the preset coilovers. I started calling a bunch of smaller shops. They really didn't want to touch them. And then there's a couple that said, well, we'll take a look at them, but we're not sure. I called Toyota, the dealership. They said they would do them, but I have to have an appointment. And I live 6 miles from town. After already starting on the front of this, you know, it would have cost me, I could have just bought a spring compressor by the time. I've already had these things off 4 times adjusting them, trying to get them right. And I asked Ackertune, I called Ackertune yesterday. I put these things on, put the tires on, backed it out of the shop, went back and forth hitting the brakes, kind of parked. I don't know why I didn't pull it back in here. I kind of found a level spot out there in the gravel. Did a bunch of measurements. The main measurement that when I called Ackertune that they were looking for, as far as the front goes, is center of this bolt here to the top of this hat up here, which is kind of hard to figure out, but it's, you know, up in here. That length, after you've settled the suspension, you got the tire on, you got to reach in behind the tire with everything sitting on the ground and take that measurement. You want that measurement for my pickup. Now, every vehicle's different as far as models and makes, and depending on what system you have, there's different, you know, 0 to 3 inch, 0 to 2 inch. There's different systems you could have for these types of springs. But for my pickup with the setup I have, optimum is 21 inches. That's the best spot. Doesn't matter where the front of your pickup sits, doesn't matter how much lift you have. That's where they want that for the best, for this shock to work the best. If you have this adjustment too loose, you're going to be bottoming the piston out down here in the bottom of the barrel. If you have the shock too tight, then you'll be bringing that piston up and slamming it hard in the top of the barrel. So the best spot to have it is in that optimum position, which is 21 inches for my pickup. At least that's what I've been learning, and that's what I've been explaining. This is the first time I've done anything like this, so I had one side at 22 inches, and I had one side at 22¼ inches. And he says you're over maxed out on those shocks. He says you will have problems if you leave them where you're at. Those are the adjustments that you want to change. And I asked him, I said, hey, what's the magic number? You know, I don't have to pull these things off 100 times. What's the magic number to figure that out? And he says, there is no magic number. He says, right here in the shop, we do these things all day, every day. You put them on, you check it, you take them off, you adjust them, you put them on, you check it, you take them off and adjust it. So that being said, I've already had these things off 4 times on both sides. It's not hard to do, it's just time consuming. But me taking these to a shop and having a shop do them, you know, I've researched online. A lot of people say it's $10 a shock to throw it in or a coilover to put it in a press. Some people say it's up to $50. You know, Toyota's saying that they'll do it, but I have to have an appointment. It's just not going to work out. I did a ton of research. It took me a while to get this whole system, so I did a lot of research. I've come up with my own system that seems to be working. I don't know if it'd be good for you or the next person that watches this video, but it's working for me. So I was going to show that process of how I'm doing it, and maybe it will help someone out. At least give you ideas of what you're looking at, what you're looking for when you do it. So, trying to remember what I wanted to cover and didn't want to cover. Acrotune's been really helpful. Every time I call them, they answer all my questions and help me out, and so they've been good to work with. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start on this. If I remember something, I'll bring it up. I'm going to go ahead and I'll set this camera down. I'll start another camera, hopefully see which one gets the better shots. And I'll show you exactly how to get this all out of here, and where to start at and where to finish. Or actually, I have all my tools on that side, but we're going to start on this side. I'm going to get this camera set down here. Get another camera going. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, obviously we've got it jacked up. I've got stands back here. It's still sitting on the jack, but I got stands back here to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. The first thing we're going to do is take this sway bar link off right here. I suppose I better start with the right wrench. When you do this, I think it says in the manual not to torque any of this stuff down. Don't torque it down. I torqued it down the first time, hoping that everything was going to be set. And I've had to pull it all back apart several times. So torquing it down did me no good. Coming back over here. We're going to do the same thing here. I did video some of this stuff. I don't know if there's questions on install. Most of this install is pretty easy, but I might be able to answer some questions. This here, we'll break this back loose. This reservoir is real pain in the butt to get up in this mount. I talked to Ackertune about that, and they said that's the way it is. I keep putting it back up in that mount. I would say if you're doing this and you have to do this so many times, I would not put that back up in the mount. I would find a way. There's one of these, this is what it came with in the box. I'd probably leave these on here and just try to hang it up here somewhere. Maybe a quick turkey tie or bungee cord. Because I've been mounting it up there. I've scratched the stickers and kind of dinged things up a little bit. It's probably, with me, it's probably not going to stay perfect running up in the gravel roads and hunting and whatnot. But yeah, it'd be best if you want to keep it nice and shiny to keep it wrapped like that and just bungee cord it there until you do your testing and back it in and out. Some of this stuff I've just left loose because I know I'm gonna have to pull it right back off. I have a jack down here I've been kind of keeping underneath this, kind of give a little bit of support. Things don't go flying too far. And then I do have a bungee cord, like a bungee cord up and around here to kind of help hold from this stuff getting super tight. 14mm wrench on these top bolts. Lower this jack down. These bolts aren't wanting to come out too easy this morning. I ain't got them worn out as many times as I've taken them out of here already. The one thing I forgot was the impact. I gotta turn the air on. Pull this bottom bolt out of here. Bolt and washer. So one thing to be cautious about, one is these wires and stuff up here, you don't want to stretch them out too far. Another thing is try not to beat these things up too much, because if you have to ship them back for some reason and have the springs changed, because they come with a too soft of a spring or too stiff of a spring, they don't want a bunch of scratches on them, which I think I've probably already put, unfortunately put a couple on these ones. They recommend you kind of wrapping them when you stick them up in there, so you don't damage them. So we're going to run this out. I guess we better turn you down here a little ways. So I'm going to run this out one turn. I'm not too far off of where I need to be to get me at 21 inches when this is loaded up on the pickup. So the spring compressors I got are these guys here. These are SPC heavy duty spring compressors. The box is here. I did contact this company, and it doesn't say SPC on it, but I'm pretty sure they're SPC tool company or something. I did email them, and they did say that, I don't remember what was the maximum that these things do. 1200 kg maximum capacity per pair. I don't remember what that was exactly in pounds, but it's a lot. And these things they're heavy duty. They got really coarse thread screws on them, and I've used them several times now, and they've worked great. Now one thing that I could say is when I started on this, I had here probably 1.5 inches of threads from the top down. I mean, these things were compressed quite a ways when I got them. At that point, these things were just barely fitting in here. So that being said, if you had to compress the spring more, you might have a problem getting these things in and out of here on these. The only thing that I could say, that I'm not saying to do it because I don't know that it's going to be safe, but you can take these off. I would think take them off and maybe wrap these in some black tape, and then they're quite a bit smaller. They're quite a bit thinner getting them in there, and then they would fit in there a lot easier. But these, probably two things on these: one, it saves from scratching stuff up, and two, it probably helps it from sliding. Where you're metal to metal, it's going to slide, and you have if you don't get them just right, they could slide and come flying off of there. I haven't had that happen. This is my first experience with these. I'm glad I got these opposed to some of the other ones that I've seen, but these so far have worked great. So we want to make sure that we're 180 degrees out on these. We want to get one in here. Now it's going to fight me a little bit. There we go. So we'll just go like that. You know, if I could go down, well, I'm not going to be able to go down. I'll just go right there. Just these down. Now, you're not supposed to use impacts on these at all, but for quick work, hopefully I didn't lose my socket. No, it's right here. quick work running these things, at least into where it touches, I am going to use these. So we got it. Just made contact. Kind of a job working with this remote reservoir on here. We get these on here now. Let's see, I'm gonna go one more down on this one. I like to keep it on the same spring on both back and forth here. I don't know that you have to do it that way, but it seems to compress a little bit better that way. So we're tight. One thing I like to do is turn it sideways like this and look to make sure, I don't know if we can see that, but we're straight across here on these two. So turn it back sideways, crank these things down. You'll have to move these things a couple times, these locks. Make sure they're square and adjusted down tight so there's no possible way of them flying off of there. I'm gonna take a ratchet. We can go, I don't know, about 6 to 8 quarter turns or so, half turns here. And once we get some good pressure on them, like just measure, we're a little bit further out on this one. Try to keep them somewhat even as you're coming in here. So we're about even there. So now we'll just go up the same amount on it. Better camera work here. And then as we're doing this, we just want to keep an eye. We don't want to, I'm going out with this screw, so I don't want to go too far. I just want to go just far enough that I can move that without having too much pressure on it. Probably gonna have to go some more. We're looking pretty good. We're lifting up here though. Yeah, I think we're loose. So one thing that I did learn on this is taking, if you happen to have any dirt or anything in here, make sure you blow this out real good. Then I just sprayed it with PB Blaster, and that made a huge difference on this thing turning. Even when you didn't think it was going to turn, I started spraying it and working it back and forth, and then it turned real easy. This bolt, you just want to get it loose. They say you don't want to take it all the way out, especially if you have still pressure on this, because it could go flying. It could not go flying, but it could strip its way out this way and probably cause damage to either this or the barrel. So now we just take, and I wanted to see what one turn would do here. So I'm gonna go one turn, bring it back around to where this was, and go ahead and snug it back up, tighten it back up before you forget, because you don't want to release pressure off of it until that's tight. That's tight. Now we just back it back off again. You want to do it even, backing it back off. I go probably a little bit further backing it off than I did compressing it down. This thing turns, I mean, it's easy going on, easy coming off. I'm gonna go ahead and run this out now with this. Still keeping it even. The other thing is if you're going one way or the other too far, make sure when this comes back down, when you're releasing all this is centered. There's a ledge in there that this all centers up on. Make sure you're centered before you go back out, because if it's not, then you're going to have to do it all over again to get that thing centered back to where it's supposed to be. So these things here, you just adjust these back out to, I just adjust them out until they're flat here again on both sides. You might have to take a wrench. They kind of pinch down here, just kind of tap it off like that on both sides. Pop them back out of there. Like I said, if you're going the other way with this, these might get a little tight in there. But for what I'm doing, for the direction I'm going, hopefully this is my last adjustment, but for the direction I'm going, it's working great. So I come back over here. Come back over here and it's just the reverse. Okay, so turn you back up here. So this, oh, I see. There's a lip on the top and a lip on the bottom. Trying to figure out, and this is something I keep trying to remember doing, I haven't done it. But that don't go up there as far as I thought it did, as far as how far this rounded piece is and where the top of this sits up in there. But I know when it sits in there, it sits right here, right in the, about in the center in that X, or maybe it's right at the bottom of this X. So when you're doing your measurements, you got to kind of figure that into everything. We'll go ahead and set this back in here. Wiggle it around. Put the bottom bolt back in. If you have two people doing this, it's working a little bit quicker too, but I've been doing it mostly myself here. The bolt goes back in, washer, nut, and then I just kind of snug it down with the impact. Go ahead and so you can pick up on this. The jack a little bit. Put your hat bolts back in. We're just going to snug them up with a wrench. And we go ahead and swing this back around. Make sure this is back where I want it. These are the SPC adjustable arms. I don't remember what the percentage is, but I have it in the position for now that's supposed to take it back to a factory alignment, but I won't know that until I take it in to get it aligned. Bring our wire around. We can unhook this. And I just run this down just to hold this in there for now. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and do what I said earlier. And I'm just going to throw a turkey tie on that reservoir. Hopefully I don't have to pull it back off, but I've done this so many times now that there's no use even risking it at this point. That might not be big enough. I guess if you don't have a bunch of turkey ties, you probably wouldn't want it. And they have turkey ties that are releasable. It might be better to just do a bungee cord or something on there for now. It's just something to hold it instead of putting this clamp on every time. And they are hard. They're hard to get those up in there. You see right now it don't even sit quite straight. And I asked Ackertune about that. And I did, when I put them in, I did break this nut here loose so you could adjust this hose. But it was still real stiff getting up in there. These hoses, I don't know if these are number 4 wire hoses or what, but being they're that short and then probably a number 4 hose, they're stiff getting up in there. And they said that they will be. That's the way they are. So even they have to fight with them. So then you can put this back in there, or do the other side, put this back in there, put the bolt on it, put the tire back on it, run it back and forth in and out of the shop, and then remeasure this adjustment here from the center of this bolt to looking at where this sits in here. And you see where it sits now. You can't see the light. You can see the tail there. You can see the F on the Fox just barely, in the X. So it does go up in there a little ways. So when you measure it, it's got to be probably the top of this at least to get the right measurement out of that. So I think that's where I'm at for now. I'm going to go ahead and shut the cameras off. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side real quick and then put the tires back on it and see where I'm at. I might come back. I might not. I have some other stuff recorded already. I don't know if I'm gonna throw it up. I guess if anybody's got any other questions. I really didn't do a full install video. I did just some pictures, time lapse or whatever, and I did every once in a while, talk about certain things that might be tricky. These bolts can be tricky to get in and out on these things. So I guess if I don't throw that stuff up, or you don't see it and you got questions, I do have some short clips that I can put together and maybe help someone out. Other than that, this stuff's pretty easy to do. It's pretty easy to get in and out, and it's a lot easier than what I thought it was going to be. And having these spring compressors, I think I paid 120 bucks for these things. I think they're lifesavers myself. So, alrighty, I'll see y'all later.